Hello again, Internet. DM or Dylan here. I am coming at you again with another world building episode. This time I'm going to be covering more of the naming of regions and major locations on the continent. This is a pretty simple part, but it is very important to add diversity and a bit of splash to your world. Um, Next episode we'll be covering some history, how to world building history, so that it gives some more context for your setting, so that you have some starting information you can use to flavor up the world. Okay then, so let me shrink this down. All right, so back on our map, let's go to our text tools. So I decided I wanted to do one more thing before calling it quits on the regional map. I wanted to add one more mountain range. Why might you ask? Well, it adds a bit of, for when your players eventually travel, you want to have different and diverse environments, and being able to swap between massive desert plains to mountainscapes in a moment's notice. Say they're traveling from the steeps to the sunken hive and then up through this mountain range to get to that sinkhole up north. Well, that adds three different environments. That if they're traveling from the steeps, that's four different environments. That's the steeps, that's the Sunken Hive region, that is the mountain range, and then the Orange Desert, which I have not named yet. But I'm going to this video. So we're going to start with the chasm over here. Now, that is too far of a spin. What do you call a chasm? Most people call it a canyon. You know, it is a canyon after all. But Grand Canyon, come on. Grand Canyon, too used. So, what to name something like this? So you kind of want to pull up synonyms for things, synonyms that have a unique meaning. So great. Well, let's pull up a dictionary to help with this. Dictionary. And we can go ahead and type in canyon, right? Synonyms for canyon. Gorge, gully, ravine, valley, glen, gulch, coulee. So, not a whole lot to replace with. However, since this is a massive gorge, I think I like the use of gorge. Then we needed one descriptor for it. So this thing's going to spread well over 100 miles across the continent. So it's massive. It's going to be, well, let's see. Let's go back to the thesaurus. And let's go with deep. You know. And it pulled up the ocean definition. That is not what we wanted. That is not what we wanted. We wanted the Let's try sunken. So that's not getting us anything either. Let us try. You know what? Let's stop using synonyms. We'll come up with something on our own. So, let's see, we're going to go with the. Nope, text is way too big there. That needs to be dropped down to a 16. And our font needs to be changed to the Ancient Antiqua. Alright, so the could just go with the same kind of theme we're going, the sunken chasm, or we could go with the sun shattered chasm. Now, that's adding some definite pizzazz. It's a bit different. Why is it called sun shattered? Well, what happened to the continent? It was scorched. What scorched it? Was it the sun? Was it something else? Cover that in a later video. And then we're going to add just, nope. Where is it? We're going to add just the bittest of curvature. Ittiest little bit. Put it at 10 so it kind of follows the chasm. Alright. Then we're going to reset that back to 0. Spin it to this way. Alright, so this is going to cover this region here. Alright, so what should we call a section of desert? Well, it seems we're going with sunken and sun-shattered kind of theme. Lots of sun theme, lots of wind theme is going to be here. Lots of molten kind of rock themes. So we're going to go with the southern, no, drylands. Southern drylands. May think, that's a bit basic, but you know what? It's south, it's not the steeps, and it's a desert. We're trying to stay away from the word desert as much as possible, but without, because desert is over here, so obviously we'll be desert somewhere. I may change the obsidian dunes to the obsidian desert for sake of it sounds a little better, but there's also other stuff here that has to be marked out later. We'll get into that when we're mapping specific regions of the world. Okay, next we want to do this mountain range. Okay, so mountain range. Peaks is a good. There's lots of ways you can describe mountains without actually describing. Called Cordella. I think I said that right. Um, but let's see if there is a term for dry mountains. Well, it doesn't seem like there is. No, just dry mountain. Okay. So we went with sun shattered over at the chasm. So what if we went with sun baked peaks? Kind of turn it just a little bit, pop it in there. There we go. So now we have one of our main mountain ranges named, and we're going to go here. It's our second mountain range. Now, however, it is unique because it's spread across three different areas of the continent where this used to connect as one. So, perhaps for this one, we call this the Shattered um, Shattered Mountains. Nothing too fancy there. And we'll flip it this way. No, this way. And we will give it a bit curve the other way. Maybe a little turn. Okay, so there we go. We have the sun shattered chasm, the shattered mountains, the sun-baked peaks, the sunken hive, the southern drylands, and the steeps and the obsidian dunes. So where do we go from there? Well, we got to name all this orange stuff. Now what? Of course, first off, we're just going to go ahead and hit this with what it is. The northern drylands. That's a pretty easy one to just knock out right then and there because similar names, similar places, easy to work with. There is sometimes simplicity and symmetry while also keeping it unique. Okay, next, we're going to name this region over here. So, what this region is going to be known for is whereas the sunken hive has massive hive pits, desert hive pits, this region is just going to be riddled with what more or less is just erosion of sandstone. So it's punctured through, and it's this riddled walls of solid sandstone that has holes puncturing through it, and it's much like slot canyons, except just this awful region. So we are going to call this the, well, let's see. Let's see what we're working with. Some interesting things here. So we're going to call this the Canyons, if I could spell, Canyons of Ruin. It's dangerous to hike through this area. Lots of monsters that hide and come out of these slots in the wall. In the walls in this region, then there are these two massive pits that are hive pits. I know I said last video about this being one of the largest, but these two would be the largest desert hive pits, all of which are extremely dangerous and would make for great large-scale dungeons. We will also obviously have some starter hive pits scattered across the continents for easy dungeon access and simple things to start with. Desert Hive will fill the role of the typical kind of monster, the orc, the hobgoblin, the goblins, various kinds of desert hive that will be various sizes, shapes, forms. Leave a lot to be open for what the desert hive is, but it was think of it as once they were humanoids and they were corrupted by the god Kun Creek, and it has led them various forms of humanoids into being these insectoid-like monsters. So we have different sizes, different heights, different strengths, different abilities based on each hive. Each hive could be completely different from the last. You could have a hive that was previously goblin, could have a hive that was previously orc, could have a hive that was previously elf. There's lots of there's lots to work with here in this odd little setting I'm working on. And I do believe we're going to change this to the Obsidian Desert. Yes, that looks just the slightest bit better. Okay, so it's the Canyons of Ruin. So over here, this is the last area we've got to name. And we're going to call this the, well, let's see. The, no, I've used the too much. Everything has the in it except for the Obsidian Desert and the Sunken Hive. Of course, most of that can be removed. Canyons of it's more of just a syntax thing. Um, Looking into the same kind of regional effect as what is up north, slot canyons kind of riddled with holes and things like that, so we can lean into that. So perhaps the southern deadlands, badland, no, deadlands. No, we'll just put the deadlands. And of course, there will be ruins scattered throughout these places, some more than others. The Obsidian Desert will have a massive, in its heart, a massive ruin. There'll be ruins throughout the canyons of ruin. There'll be ruins sunken into the sun-shattered chasm. There's going to be some ruins in the hives. There's going to be ruins in the steeps. Everywhere's going to have ruins because Arkresh was once a very high society. Fell. Lots of things happened. Get into that in the next episode of history. But yeah, it's a lot to be up still. But we have named every major region, save for these three little islands, which are still part of it, but could spread the deadlands across that. These three will be that can be included in the northern drylands. Or what if we have these as little oases? So we make some changes. Nothing major, just the start of something new. Let's see. Dead grass. No, not swamp. Kind of looking for burnt out grass. That is way too big. Just the starting. of recovery. A little oasis where things somehow managed to be spared by, or where things have started to return to normalcy. Maybe because of lack of interaction from the different tribes of our creche. So we will simply call this Zeranave's Haven. Now that will Zaranave will come up at a later time. She is one of the major deities in my world. She is the nature deity. So that fits into that. Why it's called that Zaranave's Haven. Bada bing, bada boom. Um, there we go. I think minus one thing. We're going to set the northern peak up. Let's set where we have our north. But we're going to do this in a different font so that it stands out. We're going to do it in the Metamorphose. Place that, spin it, delete the text in it, just put in for north, obviously. We'll bold it. We will make it a different color so it stands out. No, we'll leave it white for now. Alright. I think that's where we're going to end this episode. Thank you for joining me again on one other world creation video. Next time we will go over more of some of the things we want, some of the particulars of the region, of each region. We'll start with the history of why our creche is the way it is, and then slowly move forward to what we have so far. Uh, then on the next, and then we will discuss what we will do next. Thank you all for joining. If you don't mind, don't forget to leave a like if you enjoyed the video and subscribe if you're new. Thank you for stopping by. Have a nice day.